America marketing for BCG Digital Ventures. I'm one of 3 of the co-sponsors of this event with Originate and UCLA Anderson Venture Accelerator. We are always hiring, as well as Originate, so if you're interested in learning anything more about what we do or what they do, or UCLA Anderson Venture Accelerator, we are all in the room tonight. So Danielle and Will, can you just wave for the... So, respectively, Will is with UCLA Anderson Venture Accelerator, Danielle's with Originate, and I'm with Digital Ventures, and so is Heidi. So please feel free to reach out if you have any questions about what we do. This is the second of a 4-part series. Our next 2 are on real estate and philanthropy. The next event will be on September 11th, right back here in this room. So we'd love if you can join us. Stay tuned to all of our channels for more information on that. With that, I'm going to get to the good stuff and pass it over to Heidi Kim, who's our moderator tonight. She's a lead product manager at BCG Digital Ventures. She builds new businesses with our corporate partners every single day. We're going to let her introduce herself, but she'll probably be modest, so she has a really great background in food as well, so she's going to be a great moderator tonight. And we hope you'll join us afterward for actual food and more drinks after the talk. So thanks again for coming, and I'll hand it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you guys for coming. The introduction. So I'll tell you guys a little bit about myself. I'll tell you a bit about the speakers we have today, and they'll give their own introductions as well. One of the reasons why Emily asked me to moderate this panel today is because I once upon a time had a startup in the food tech space. So I ran a meal kit delivery company that was a B2B2C model, sort of in the era where a lot of meal kit delivery companies were coming into the fore. And ultimately, we ended up shutting it down because we decided the economics weren't strong enough. Recently, I was in Whole Foods and saw that Amazon is doing similar things, using literally the same words that we used for our business 5 or 6 years ago, which either means they ripped us off or we were not very original, so you guys decide. But since then, I've been working on launching ventures in a lot of different spaces, but food continues to be a passion, largely because it impacts all of us on a day-to-day basis. And I think particularly as a woman working in tech, I recognize that food especially is a burden specifically for kind of working women, especially when they're starting families, which is the origination for the startup that I had created a number of years ago. So with that, we have a great panel today. I think one of the things that I wanted to make sure we had was to cover not just innovations in food that are kind of the things that you hear about all the time, but really just to make sure that we're covering all the different aspects of food. So with that, I will introduce our panelists today. So starting to my left here is Alex Canter. He's been in the restaurant industry for quite some time, it turns out. He's in fact the 4th generation in the restaurant business. If you've heard of Canter's Deli in Los Angeles, the last name is shared with Alex here. And he now is the kind of founder and CEO of Ordermark, which is a food delivery ordering kind of startup that he will describe better than I will. And he's also very active with the Techstars network here, mentoring other restaurant technology businesses, and was the 2019 recipient of the Forbes 30 Under 30. To the left of him is Purvin, coming all the way from Boston. And he runs product development at Ninja and is responsible for overseeing quality, marketing, consumer insights, and manufacturing for all of their kitchen products. He and his team have been responsible for overseeing double-digit revenue growth, which is pretty big in that space, and has a lot of passion to bring innovative food tech-enabled products to the market and to make meaningful differences in consumers' day-to-day lives. It's Purvin. And then we also have Katie, who's actually representing sort of the core food product. So she's the COO at Caulipower, which is a company dedicated to revolutionizing our favorite foods by making them better and better for us, and to make all these foods accessible to all people. She's also a co-founder of Way Out, which is a nonprofit dedicated to providing safe spaces for LGBTQ youth, and has previously also launched products in the food and beverage space for major Fortune 50 players. And then finally, we have Ryan Matteson to her left, who got into food when he started the country's first bicycle-only CSA in downtown Los Angeles over 5 years ago with his wife. And then in 2017, his friend, who happened to be a vegan chef, it turns out, began to suggest that he step into creating prepared meals. and thus started Sexy Lunch Club, which is a vegan lunch subscription company that has grown to produce a pop-up dinner series, meal prep, and is a favorite choice for corporate catering downtown. So those are our speakers. And so to get us started, I just wanted to kind of learn from you guys about who you are in your own words, the startup or company that you are working at now and how it came about, and how you ended up working in the food sector. So maybe we'll start by going in order.
Sure. All right. So my name is Alex Canter, CEO and co-founder of Ordermark, and also a fourth generation of Canter's Deli. Quick show of hands who here is familiar with Canter's Deli on Fairfax. All right. A lot of people in LA are obviously familiar. But, I basically, my great-grandfather started a restaurant 88 years ago. My grandfather worked there for 65 years. My dad dropped out of high school, worked there his whole life, and I started working there when I was 13, waiting tables and really trying to carry the torch forward to the next generation, identifying new technology that can help carry our business forward. And along the way, I discovered the power of online ordering. And it was kind of out of a need versus a want, because when the recession hit us in 2009, our foot traffic in the restaurant was down about 15%, which was almost enough to close the doors down. So we were forced to figure out new ways to reach customers. So I signed up for companies like Grubhub, Eat24, DoorDash, Postmates, and the list goes on. And 14 online ordering platforms later, delivery became 30% of our business, which we were completely shocked by the results of it. But at the same time, we also had 9 tablets, 2 laptops, and a fax machine to manage all those incoming orders. So the staff hated me, they wanted to kill me, and every morning I'd come in, the tablets would be turned off, they refused to make delivery food, and we were messing up orders left and right because it was so complicated. So to solve my own problem, I put together a team in 2017 and built an online ordering fulfillment technology that takes orders from Grubhub and all these different systems, standardizes the incoming data, and brings it to a single printer that can go right on the kitchen line. Kind of reimagining the online ordering experience in a restaurant from scratch. And fast forward a little over 2 years, we now have 75 employees at Ordermark. We work with over 2,000 restaurants nationwide, from mom and pops to some large chains like Sonic and Subway. And we're really starting to find a rhythm in helping restaurants transform from brick and mortar to what we're calling the e-commerce phase of the restaurant business. That's my story.
Hi, I'm Purvin, Shah, SVP of Product at Ninja. So, by show of hands, how many of you have a Ninja blender or a coffee machine? All right, quite a few. So Ninja was born in 2009, where our CEO came up with this concept of basically taking ice and crushing it to snow, which is what you do for margaritas, but that's how we started off. And kind of bringing the restaurant quality drinks to home is where we started off, and the Ninja journey started. From there onwards. Every year after year, some new innovative products have came out, one after another. We started more in the motorized sector with the Ninja blenders, and then ventured into coffee machines, where we have a coffee bar which can make a cup to carafe size of coffee, which tastes the same whether you make a cup size or a carafe size. So innovation and technology in the background to kind of do those things. And last year we ventured into the heated products, so cooking heated products, where we launched a product called Ninja Foodie. You might have seen some of that's going on for those these days, where it's a revolutionary product where we combine a pressure cooker and an air fryer together. So not only it can pressure cook your food, but can crisp. Who wants a mushy food, the restaurant will tell you that's not what anybody wants, so now you have an ability to kind of go and crisp over there. I grew up with the company 6 years ago, started on the engineering side, but my passion has always been kind connecting with the consumers and learning what their unmet needs are and how do we bring that in our product innovation. So that's kind of my story.
Hi everybody, I'm Katie Lefkowitz. I am the CEO of Caulipower. I hope that some folks here have tried some of our products. I don't like to compete with Canter Deli, so I'm not going to ask for a show of hands. But we launched our company in, not that long ago, we're about 2 years old. We launched in early February of 2017 with our cauliflower-based frozen pizzas, and kind of since then have grown a little bit like a rocket ship. We are now in about 20,000 retail doors throughout the country, and have since launched other cauliflower-based products like our cauliflower tortilla, and actually recently launched a sister brand in what's called sweet potato toast. And so our sweet potato toasts are meant to be sort of bread replacement. So they're sliced, par-baked sweet potatoes that you can use in the place of bread. And super happy to be here, talk about a little bit more about the CPG food side of the business. It's been an absolute pleasure. I'm a bit of a career changer. I was with BCG before this, so happy to talk any questions about that. And just great to meet everybody, and thank you for having us.
Hi, I'm Ryan Matteson. So yeah, I'm known as the sexy guy at a lot of things, and I was that right away. But yeah, I started the CSA like 5 years ago because there wasn't a lot of options down there, exactly what me and my wife wanted in produce delivery. And so I knew from being a part of the CSA, I knew a lot of the farmers, and they were the kind of produce that you don't get at Ralph's, that you get from something like this, or a farmer's market, if you're lucky sometimes. And so yeah, I started that, and it was just downtown, so I knew there was density, and there was more density happening. And then it really was just a friend that was just like, hey, you should do, she was a great vegan chef, amazing. She's still, I shouldn't say was, because she still is alive. But she just said, do it, like try it. I'm not a chef, and my wife has worked front of house, and she's so awesome. And then she has so much knowledge of back house because she worked front of house. And I don't have any of it, and so I was so hesitant. But her skills, which I realized with the right recipes, you make clean food for people, and especially as we all start realizing like kind of the shit that's in processed food and a lot of packaged food. Not yours, of course. So nice.
I paid them to
yeah, of course. Not Caulipower. There's just, there's demand for that. And so I started subscription from that little, like I had this beautiful blonde surfer dude friend of mine was like, come and sell this food my friend Vivian's making in the fashion district. Let's see if it works. And did, and it just started, and it was a subscription. Because of the CSA, knowing how to do subscriptions and having all that set up, it's like, okay, we can start there. And I've just been learning ever since how to do catering better and how to do private events. And like even up to the dinner series, it's fun because I'm not the chef, so I'm going to deal with that shit. I let them do it and serve like good food to people downtown.
Awesome. So first question, I want to just kind of start from the core food product. So for you, Katie, but others, feel free to chime in. So one of the trends that we've seen in the last few years is sort of this rise of alternative foods, right? Plant-based proteins like Impossible Burger, Beyond Meat, I think, is here in LA. Cauliflower food products. There's also an ongoing war against gluten, it feels like. So I want to get your perspective on what's driving this innovation, and what are you most excited about in sort of this space?
So it's an interesting question, I think, especially being that we're here at a business school and having completed my own MBA. You're sort of taught to think of things in a very almost like overly structured way, right? So if I was starting Caulipower 5 years ago, you would say, okay, this is a really big, $5 billion market, and it's highly concentrated, and there's only 10 major players in this space, and it's ripe for disruption, and look at all these market trends on cauliflower. But, I mean, really that's the opposite of the way that we were founded. We were founded by a woman by the name of Gail Becker, who started the company because she had 2 young sons who had celiac disease, and she kind of watched this war on gluten evolve over the course of their lives, and just ultimately got fed up with the fact that these major corporations weren't making products that everybody in her family could enjoy, right? Her kids would have friends over, and she would have to make a special pizza for her boys, and she just hated that had to happen. And so I really think whenever we talk and think about trends, if the trend is being talked about in any kind of market report, like, it's over. You know what I mean? Like, you really need to kind of see these things from the source, and then you almost create the trend. And so I completely agree with your point that people are looking for alternatives, and I think really the trend is, look, there is a world in which founders and just folks with great ideas, if you want to start a food company, especially a food product company, you can do it, and it doesn't take millions and millions of dollars of capital to start it up, because there's so many options in the co-manufacturing or co-packing space. So the great thing about it is you really have kind of democratized the space in a way that you have a great idea, just you can execute on it. And the good news is you will almost certainly be moving faster than any of the major corporations. So I very much encourage anybody who has those types of ideas to just go for it.
So I guess moving to the next step from the core food product Purvin, I just want to ask you a little bit more about devices. So more and more we're seeing devices getting connected, right? Both ones that are coming out of startups as well as ones that are coming from major manufacturers. And I've also seen companies come out with devices that are like hundreds of dollars and probably outside the price range for most people. So just wanted to get your perspective on what you think is the next wave of innovation when it comes to connected products, and is that really where the innovation is, or do you think it's somewhere else altogether?
So we follow the connected products very closely because that's where we want to see. To answer your question, is connected products going to happen in the kitchen appliance? The answer is yes. Yes, that's the trend, or people are going. But we haven't seen very much meaningful connected products yet in the kitchen appliance. Like, just because it's connected to an Alexa or a Google Home, or you can say, like, it doesn't help you to that level. Very few products have been able to crack it, where it's actually enhancing the skills of an average person who is cooking something in their house and taking it to the next level, or it's helping them order something over there. But I think the trend is just starting. It's not there. I think if you compare that to, let's just say, some of the other industries which have gone connected much before the kitchen appliances have, it's very important that your core product has the functionality to the level which it resonates with the consumer, and they want to do that. And the connected part of is that to kind of take it to the next level or keep improving on that. A consumer is not just going to go and buy a product because it's connected. We have seen a lot of products which have a scale which is connected. Now, I have a scale in my house where I can weigh anything over there. It becomes sometimes more cumbersome to do it on the product itself than over there. So how do you make it meaningful is where the industry might get to on the connected side.
And so at Ninja, how do you guys think about innovation as you're coming to?
So we have a lot of pillars where we are going for innovation. One of the pillars is about how do our products get connected in the future or not, is that primed up for that. Then the other one is the core cooking technology or the blending technology. Any food, if you want to make, it requires heat, moisture, and some kind of air to kind of get together. It's a combination of all that. There's so many different heating technologies which are out there, whether it's induction cooking, or it's fire, it's coal, it's charcoal, it's your convection. All those different cooking technologies, can we combine those together and give something which is much more better and meaningful and gives a different output? That's how the foodie was developed last year, to be fair with you. we were kind of trying to take those technologies together and see there. And then the third one is consumers are, in the last 10 years with the phones and stuff, are used to much better user experience. Like if you are using an iPhone or any of the Android, the experience of how you are interacting with the products have gone leaps and bounds, and consumers are ready to pay for that today, which wasn't the case maybe in the past. So that's the third pillar where we are seeing a lot of innovation in terms of different technologies, in terms of how your product is interacting and creating an emotional touch with the consumers which are cooking. Cooking is a very emotional thing for anybody who is doing at home, whether you are a great cook or a really horrible cook. But when you put food on the table, you are proud of it in some form and shape. So how do we help consumers take that leap from whether if you are a C- player, get to a B+ player, and if you are an A+ player, how do you make your lives much easier in kind of doing what you're doing day in, day out?
Right, that makes a lot of sense. Cool, so kind of moving to the prepared food space now to Ryan. The food delivery scene, as all of you guys know, is very crowded, and there have been many who have faced their funerals. Muncie probably was the biggest one most recently. And, but even despite that, there seem to be new players coming in left and right. So for you, sort of how do you think about the unique perspective that you guys have as a company? And what do you think will ultimately determine the losers versus the winners in that space?
Sure, yeah. Well, to compare what I do to any of those companies that have over tens of millions of dollars in venture capital, is part of the reason that it's hard to compare, like what we do well personally. Because if they, I mean, I know Spoon Rocket, one of them, and Lunch both did like really high quality food, and so the food's nutritional. You got that. It's done, but it's when there's the pressure of scaling too fast and you're ready. And I think any company, from probably your great grandpa to founder of Ninja to your founder, like, they made mistakes in scaling too fast in smaller ways. But when you take on something as big as millions of dollars of venture capital, you have to really have a team that can handle that pressure. I don't feel like that's our next step at all. Venture capital, that is. I think we have another level, and I think that's probably more friends, family, angels that know me, that know what we can do, that see a business that's here. And know that, like, trying to, especially, same with in the CSA world, because I was in that for like 2 years. There's a company called Good Eggs up in San Francisco that had a really, really great product, and it was actually kind of affordable for super high end. They were kind of a CSA, but they were kind of on demand. You could throw in a bunch of dairy or whatever you wanted. But they can't try to come to LA too fast. And I was like, oh, this is actually going to work. Downtown LA is so small in Santa Monica and up here in Westwood and Bel Air, but it couldn't make the economics work. And I didn't know that you had started one yourself, Heidi. So I'd be curious to know what you think about that, since you were in the same field. Not quite turning around, but totally turning around.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the questions I was going to have later for some of you guys is that I think the challenge with running a food business is that food itself as a product is very low margin. So operationally, you just need to get that down. And I think I'm with you. If you're trying to scale up operations too fast and get that math wrong, then that's a really sure way to kill your business, right? And that's not just from an economics perspective, but one of the issues we had earlier on was all around like quality assurance. You scale your kitchen too fast, and people don't know exactly how your products work. You're going to have like missing onions and missing lemons and missing sauces and all of those things that keep you from getting your customers back. So I think that's one challenge. I think the other thing that I've thought about since that experience is sort of the fickleness of people's tastes and the need to sort of adapt to that. So you're not just competing with other meal kit companies or other food delivery companies. You're really competing with any other food option, whether it's getting a Trader Joe's like frozen meal that they're going to microwave, or ordering a Domino's pizza, or going out for a fancy meal. So yeah, or getting Caulipower, exactly, or making your own smoothie, or ordering through, yeah, exactly, ordering from Canter. So I think trying to stay on top of the fickleness of people's tastes and having something that is compelling enough that you're going to come back over and over again, whether it's kind of restrictions to diet that they need to stay on top of or something else, I think is another big part of that. So yeah, I mean, like very, very challenging thing. And I also do think that some of the trends we're seeing now about bigger companies starting to either acquire these folks or taking that on themselves, like Amazon going in, putting meal kits in their own, now owned grocery stores, maybe a different way that these things are able to scale, where there are companies who can actually absorb some of the low margins and still stay profitable and to have the scale to be able to grow in a way where it's maybe less pressure than raising venture capital.
I was going to add that consumer behavior is changing so fast in this industry.
Yeah.
And the way that people connect with food in restaurants is just evolving so quickly to the point where there's a lot of data that shows that like millennials aren't even cooking at home half as much as they used to 5 years ago. So it's evolving, and there's so many companies in the space trying to compete that the unit economics of last mile delivery driving alone is horrible. Having your own drivers as a restaurant is really bad. It's really expensive to have people sitting around and the insurance. And, companies like Grubhub and DoorDash and Uber specifically, Uber already had a driver on every single block. So turning on Uber Eats for them, all they had to do was allow those Uber drivers to now drive food. So they already had that delivery infrastructure in place that made it a lot easier than somebody who's maybe trying to start their own delivery service. And I know from the VC world, the customer lifetime value of meal prep is just not good because it's hard to get someone to commit to a program for more than a couple of weeks. I mean, I've experimented myself with trying to order like these Blue Apron style companies, and like, has anyone here used like a meal prep program for more than a month?
Oh no.
That's very telling.
More than 3 months?
They start sending me too much windows.
Yeah. Exactly. It gets a little old, and it's really important, I think, to keep it fresh. And it's hard to get someone to like to be on, let alone like get okay with the quality of the food, like to be on the same schedule, to be home, to cook every day at the same time. So I think there's a lot of challenges around unit economics that make it hard for VCs and meal prep kits to even become cohesive.
So actually that gets to it's a good segue to the delivery space. So one of the things that I think is interesting about Ordermark is that you're basically creating a company on the heels of other startups that have either struggled or are having challenges filling all the needs of the customers that they have. So how do you think about how that ecosystem will evolve? And do you think there's a space for Ordermark in the longer term, or do you think Ordermark will have to also evolve as that ecosystem changes?
It's a good question. So there's actually 200 online ordering services out there that are interfacing with restaurants. Some of them, you go to the app and you place an order. Some of them, you actually go to the website of the restaurant, and there's an order now button that's powered by an online ordering service. But ultimately, the challenge for restaurants is interfacing with these different online ordering services and even knowing what's available or relevant in their zip code. So we come in, we connect them to everything that's available. Sometimes we come across restaurants that are using 6 online ordering services. We bring them up to 9. They didn't even know that there were 3 others that existed. And we can increase their delivery, the order volume by $20,000, $30,000 a month just by plugging them into more platforms. And I think what's happened in the last couple of years is that all of these new online ordering systems have been emerging. Some that are focused on specific kinds of food, like caviar, which is only for higher-end restaurants, or Slice, which is only available for pizza restaurants, so very genre-specific. And basically, like, it's just complete chaos in the restaurant environment to add in all of these additional services. And I think what's happening is more and more people are opening Postmates when they're hungry. And if you're not listed, if you're a restaurant, you're not listed on the Postmates app, you don't exist to the people who are ordering on Postmates. So just having that visibility and being these platforms allows you as a restaurant owner to be in the optional consideration. And it's really expanding beyond restaurants at this point. There's a lot of products that are moving to commissary kitchens. There's grocery chains getting involved. And I think what the reality of what's happening, we have restaurants like Halal Guys or Veggie Grill, where online ordering has actually surpassed in-store ordering. And Chipotle expects that actually the same tipping point is going to happen for them in the next 3 years, where most of their orders are actually coming from third-party delivery platforms, because that's where the convenience is. Convenience is not a trend. It's so convenient to open up this app, click one button, and already has your credit card saved, your address, your ordering preferences, your allergies. And so I don't think this is going away anytime soon. And you said like helping a lot of these online ordering companies that are struggling, but we actually haven't come across a lot of online ordering companies that are struggling. They're all easily able to fundraise because the space is growing so fast that every week on Crunchbase we see another announcement of Ritual just raised $70 million, or Bite Squad just got, Waiter just went public in the South. And there's so much investment going into this that we're just piggybacking and trying to organize everything that's happening in this space.
And do you think there's space for those 200 companies to exist for a long period of time, or do you think that's a short run? There's just a lot of VC activity in it at the moment.
I would say there's definitely going to be some acquisitions that happen. We are starting to see like Grubhub is more acquisition heavy than some of the other companies in the space. And I think that they're just going to continue like partnering and gobbling each other up, but there's still going to be at least 5 to 10 players in each market. And like even if you go overseas in India, for example, there's 36 different online ordering services that are actually relevant. In Brazil, there's 5 major competitors and like 10 smaller ones. So the same kind of things happen in all these different markets. And I don't think there's going to be 1,000 online ordering services in the space, but I think there's going to be probably like a big 4 to 6 in most major cities.
Makes sense.
Unless like Uber Eats goes crazy and just requires it.
You just never know. Yeah. Cool. So
do you see like all this ordering services coming up that the sizes of restaurants will start shrinking?
Absolutely. I think 5-10 years down the line, that the seating capacity of restaurants is already becoming smaller. You don't need necessarily to. I opened 2 Canter's locations, one in downtown LA, one in Pasadena. It's a 10 by 18 foot kitchen, 2 employees, just cranking out orders for delivery only with a pickup window. There's no front of house, there's no sign on the door. It's just a delivery driver pickup zone, and we're doing 100 deliveries out of each location on Uber Eats and Postmates and DoorDash. And I think that model of expansion is actually becoming more popular. And when restaurants are thinking about franchising and all this, instead of opening up a restaurant that's anywhere from $500,000 to $1 million startup cost, we did this for less than $20,000 to open this location. It's kind of like the next generation of a drive-through or a food truck, just taking advantage of the marketing spend of all these different online ordering platforms.
Alex, are you referring to cloud kitchens?
Yeah, we have
Yeah, we're in there too.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, totally.
Sweet.
And then that's just where it's going. And so it's hard for what we do, with our roots being made fresh and then eaten within an hour, to doing something where we have our own commissary, but we're the first batch at Cloud Kitchens.
Yeah, we're the second restaurant in Clark.
Were you guys really? All right, yeah. At Washington.
Yeah,
Okay.
1842.
Yeah. But yeah, we're doing what they're doing. They are preparing like hot food, and that's what customers really want. What I'm learning about right now is how do I do like kind of the meal prep cold stuff that can stay in your fridge and you'll reheat in your own nice dishes with your own garnishes that you like. with some of our, especially our vegan recipes that are normally served cold, so it's not so bad. But we're trying to do that as kind of like a mock version of what they're doing on the delivery side. And it's just, I think you have to. I mean, you're available on Amazon, right?
Yeah.
So I mean,
It's really expensive though.
to sell on Amazon.
The problem, frozen shipping is just.
Cold.
I guess just, not to play devil's advocate, but I feel like it's really easy to feel like because we live in a major city, in a densely populated city, that this is sort of the future of everything. But so a lot of our manufacturing plants, which is kind of where I spend most of my time, are in really remote parts of the country. And I can't tell you how many times I've landed in the middle of nowhere, Idaho, and all I want is food, and there are no online ordering options. And so curious your take on, in parts of the country, most of the country is not as well populated as, obviously New York or Chicago. And, what you think the future would be there, where you're never going to have that population density, if that really does sort of take over in the way that lots of people like to talk about it.
As of last month, 80% of Americans are covered by restaurant delivery platforms now. And
I guess I'm just for 20%.
I mean, there's still obviously these remote areas where it doesn't even make sense to put delivery because of the economics, but there's still order ahead platforms. There's not much in that space, but like DoorDash in 2018 went from 600 to 1,800 cities that they expanded to in terms of their delivery coverage, and every online ordering service is like ramping up their coverage map right now. There's actually some platforms that are like advertising like we're where Grubhub isn't, and they're trying to focus on like these way remote areas or college markets where like there's not a lot happening on the delivery side. So I think Amazon through Prime Now, they now have the ability to order 2-hour or less delivery from your favorite restaurants as well. And that's starting to spread into like, these other areas as well. So I don't know.
Yeah. I have a list of locations for you.
Katie wants to be fed on her trips, for sure. So I think some of this conversation is starting to touch on this a little bit, but given that we are at a business school, and I think typically, or at least when I was in school, a lot of folks wanted to either become entrepreneurs, were entrepreneurs, or wanted to go work at different startups as they're thinking about either transitioning or spending their summer or what have you. So for you guys on the panel, what do you think are sort of the exciting spaces in food that people could consider if they were looking to either work or start something in that space? And do you have any kind of lessons or things that you may want to share in terms of challenges that folks will face in that space that you want to at least provide some guidance or advice around?
I think it's hard to say, okay, this is an exciting space. It's really just whatever you're passionate about is what's going to make the most sense for you, right? I mean, this kind of goes back to my other points. Oh, this is the perfect space. It's growing at 20%. Well, if you find something that you are obsessed with and you wake up every single day excited to fight the battles for, I think that makes all the difference. And to your question on challenges, I mean, it makes every single challenge that much easier because it's something that truly drives you that is going to be used to solve that problem versus like it's just another hurdle in your way.
Just to echo that, I think you hit it. If there's a trend on something and everybody's running there, it's already done. So don't
run the other way.
Yeah, run the other way or try something else. Plus, in innovation, yes, you need the passion. That's where it needs to start for sure. But don't think that you have an amazing idea day one. So that's the perfect innovation. You will fall and fail probably 9 out of 10 times, and maybe one will work out. But that's where you need to keep iterating, or kind of how do you yourself fail fast is the term we use within our innovation hubs over there. There's lots of ideas which come out every day, and a group gets together and gets very excited about it. But the next day you come together and think like, it was super exciting yesterday, maybe not today. And kind of like, yes, we want to collect more data, but as soon as you start getting some information, don't just get married to it very upfront, just because you are passionate about it. I think that might be an advice for folks who might be starting into it, for sure.
I think it's also just a really exciting opportunity today where like you can be super niche at something and like start something that like no one has ever done before. Like you could launch a company what's called CBD ginger ale, and like that could be the next big thing. I mean, cauliflower pizza, like if you would have said that to someone 20 years ago, they would have been like, and what else? Like, but that's such a hot thing right now, and like it's had mass adoption. I just think that we are in this like weird time where like you can make a very specific product and it can be like a home run.
Although I just had mentioned like we felt you go to on-demand delivery for what we do. I think it's the coolest space to me that most appeals to me is experiential types of stuff. And we can do that a little bit with dinners, you know, that's only a couple hours, but I think, you know, you're seeing more immersive types of, you know, afternoon spent, or, you know, these museums, ice cream museum, or whatever, and it's like these things that are able to kind of, obviously that's visual and you know, you're taking their pictures, but the experience is really, I think, is really what's drawing them rather than anything that's VR, right? So doing it with your taste sense is always been loved by humans, and to do that very intentionally, I think is a cool thing to experience. And yeah, so I think that's my area to answer your question.
Yeah, so that's actually a good point, because I think there's sort of two things that are coming out of this conversation. So there's this element which is around like experiences and tastes and things that are quite emotional or physical. And then at the same time, there seems to be this trend where it's like, don't talk to anyone, just talk to your phone for 30 seconds and get something to your door as fast as possible without having to interact with anyone. Right? So in some ways, those two trends are actually at conflict with each other. So just wanted to kind of get your takes on what is sort of the changing nature of our relationship to food and food experiences. And are those trends going to, kind of two conflicting things going to coexist, or will it turn into something else? What do you guys think?
I think there will be two types of restaurants that kind of emerge from here, like to your point. And I've actually said this a lot before. It's going to be experience-driven restaurants and convenience-based restaurants, where it's like I don't think there's going to be a lot in between. And I think if you are going to be a restaurant that's on the experience side, you have to go all in on that and create something amazing that people are like going to talk about and want to come back to, like engage with. And if you're a convenience-based thing, like I feel like you just need to focus on optimization, time, like getting food out as quickly as possible, and any restaurant that's like in the middle. I'm trying to think of like an example, but I don't want to be mean. But
we can cut out this part of the video.
A good example like could be like an Applebee's, for example, where it's not an amazing environment and it's not the most convenient food, and so they're gonna have to kind of like pick one or the other and figure out what they want to lean in towards, because it's going to be hard for a restaurant like that to like kind of be stuck in the middle.
Although Katie, I don't know if you disagree if Applebee's is the only option. I don't know.
Well, I mean, it actually is where my mind went. I think, again, like you have to think about how most consumers in America right now, like the coastal consumers, if you will, experience restaurants. And it does come down to cost for so many people. And just, you know, Applebee's might not be a great experience for you, but for some families, like that's an amazing place where they can get together and have a family meal and, you know, doesn't completely use up their whole paycheck. So there's something that we can.
And in that example of the experience is like being a cheaper, affordable restaurant, and they need to go all in on that and like not focus on delivery. I don't know.
Well, and there's two types of consumers. There's ones that live in urban areas and ones that don't. Like far suburban and rural. And that's completely different ballgame for that. Because your Applebee's and your fast food chains will thrive. Right? Because that's their Uber Eats. It's going through Jack in the Box.
And then for Purvin, given sort of all this conversation around nobody wants to cook at home anymore, how do you think about that trend in the context of Asia?
So what we are seeing is there's two trends. People want convenience, which is definitely there. Now that convenience could come like getting a frozen pizza, but finishing at home over there. The macro trend, if you look over the years, is people want to eat more healthy. That's not going away, whether it's either they're going to a restaurant or even while they're cooking at home. Overall, now the scale of what's healthy for you might be different than what's the scale of healthy for someone else over there. For someone, a fried food is still healthy if you are cooking it with a little bit less oil, versus for someone else, if there's oil in it, it's just not healthy at all. So kind of those trends are going to keep going on. And yes, there are, as Alex explained, the millennials are going down the path where you are initially in college days and stuff over there, like that initial trend of like going and just eating out. But as soon as people are thinking of starting a family or whatever it is, that something kicks in. I don't know what it is, but people at that point are going to start buying more organic stuff and then kind of going and starting to like, let me start going back to which is the halfway over there. And that's where appliances kind of come in play. Now, what appliances were useful 10 years ago? Will they be the same one which are useful today? Probably the answer is no, and that's changing and evolving with the needs. Nobody wants to sit and cook for 6-hour full pot meals, except it's Thanksgiving turkey dinner. It's more of how can I cook something in 10 minutes where it's either half prepped with the frozen food out from your grocery store, or you are buying a meal from the restaurant, but you're making the sides at home, or vice versa. One way or the other is kind of like where we are seeing the trends over there. There's a very demographic change too in terms of if you are in an urban area, going back to the same thing where people are eating more and more out versus if you are a little bit suburban or something, a mom or a family wants to put healthy food on the table for dinner, they are going back and kind of cooking more with the units in-house versus just buying food.
That's interesting. Great, just a couple more questions before we open it up to the audience here. So, Alex, for you, having been in the LA food scene your whole life, and arguably lived in a lot of cities, I think LA probably has the best food out of any major city in the US, which maybe, I don't know, arguable, we can find out later. God, people are so upset that mics are going on. But I do think it is an interesting place to be starting food businesses. And so having sort of seen this your whole life, what do you think is the role that LA specifically plays in food innovation and food trends?
Yeah. As much as I'd love to sit here and say LA has the best restaurant scene, I have to admit, like New York, Chicago, so there's a lot of places that have amazing food scenes. LA recently, I feel like ever since Uber came into our city, like it attracted like a lot of like more going out and drinking, and I feel like recently in the last couple of years we've caught up to speed a lot. But overall, I think trend-wise, I remember I used to wait in line for 45 minutes at the first Pinkberry location on Santa Monica, and then like frozen yogurt just completely spun out of control like, from that, and I've seen very similar things happen with poke bowls, with pressed juiceries, with pretty much like there's so many trends that originate or seed from LA and New York and then work their way in so quickly after that. That it's really like coming out of these places, and I think like the next generation of that could be things like probiotics or more in the health conscious, yeah,
Sexy
CBD,
lunches.
CBD 100%. We're already seeing that happen, like
Yeah.
spiral out of control right now. And I think that it does, like even like something like charcoal, lemonade, like I feel like that used to be a thing in LA for so long, and now like I'm seeing it emerge all over the country, and people are like, what is this thing that happened? But it's just, it seems to be this like leapfrog platform of like, if something starts to like stir up here, it can really go viral. It's kind of crazy.
Cool. So final question for me, and we'll go down the line for you, Ryan. As you think about your company in the next couple of years, what are you most excited about? And as you think about success longer term for your company, what does that look like for you?
Sure. Well, I'll keep it short. What I'm excited about is LA just passed a street vending law that kind of let street vendors be more legal. And so I don't see anyone doing it at a organic vegan level. I see a lot of dime dogs and fruit stands. And so just me and my team have been like really looking at that. We hope to make a little bit of investment and see what mobile, especially like electric, vegan food would look like on the streets in downtown. Again, I get the opportunity to be in a very dense area, and not everybody does, but I live there too, and so I get to see how people move, and it's a little bit of a risk because it's not something that you see. And see in New York, I don't know if you see that as much healthy options on that level. You see hot dogs and lamb on the skewer, but I don't know. That's what I'm excited about. In the future, I think multiple areas. So again, we do a lot of stuff downtown, and beyond the OC and Santa Monica, those areas, I think to do it in another city and to like anchor in, and that's we're about kind of, we do the last mile for the Sexy Lunch Club, and I'm proud of that, and I hope to continue to do that and to know a city like that and build relationships as part of your business, even if it's food, which brick and mortars get to do, which is awesome. Yeah, I think that's where I see more of where we are in 5 years.
I think in terms of what I'm the most excited for, one of my favorite parts of my job is on the innovation side, and we started 2 years ago with our pizzas, and as I mentioned, launched tortillas, launched some sweet potato products, and we have some really fun, exciting stuff in the pipeline. Follow us on Instagram, and you'll find out everything. So I think that's what I'm most excited for, is really expanding this. As you said in the beginning, you like to kind of do meal hacks and vegify all of your favorite comfort foods. And when you kind of frame it like that, there's just so many opportunities for us to grow in different directions with different products that are really accessible to everybody. So that's what I'm most excited about, and I can't wait to see how it all shapes up.
For us, I think the key is everybody needs to eat, so they are going to cook in some form and shape, and how can we bring new cooking technologies to the table, and we are fighting for every consumer's countertop space, because that's limited, and our products are kind of competing within ourselves too. So how can we kind of bring that innovation together, where it's one thing which you must have on your counter space and kind of go on in that direction. But for us, apart from just working within America, the next big leap is for us to take our products more global. We are in UK, we are in Japan, but kind of the world's a pretty big place. So that's going to be
For us, we're just trying to build a good business, and we're going to see what happens. But I think there's a lot of exciting technology that's coming into the delivery space for restaurants, from drone delivery to robot chefs who are able to make perfectly temperature like burgers and fried chicken. And I think there's going to be a lot of movement that happens with driverless cars and just getting food moving faster from restaurants come to the kitchen, so that's where our focus is going to be over the next 5 years. Also, we're hiring, so if anyone wants to come find me afterwards, there's a lot of new positions. We're in Culver City.
I live there. Okay, so that ends sort of my talking portion of it, but wanted to open it up for questions. We have a number of minutes dedicated, so yeah, maybe we'll start in the back.
So I had a question. I know a lot of brands are moving away from traditional marketing and moving more towards social media and influencers. How do you think that's going to affect the changes of, like, for example, virtual cafes and virtual kitchens moving towards possibly spending more money towards marketing and influencers and things like that versus having to have seats available? I guess that was more towards Alex, but anybody?
I'll just give a quick answer. We launched a virtual restaurant out of Canter. It's a restaurant that only exists on delivery platforms. I made a logo in 5 minutes. It's called Grilled Cheese Heaven. Just grilled cheese sandwiches. I put it on all the online ordering platforms, and it's all being fulfilled through Ordermark technology. And in the first day, we started selling about 20 tickets per day, which added an extra $250,000 a year in revenue. Zero website, zero Instagram, zero marketing, just being on Uber Eats and Postmates and DoorDash was enough to generate our orders. We're seeing a lot of movement happen in the virtual restaurant space right now, where you don't need to have that sort of presence, but there's definitely interesting things that can happen if you combine the power of, like, influencers with that as well. There's a virtual restaurant now called Pizza Aoki. It's just Steve Aoki's face on pizza, and it's killing it. It's doing really well on delivery. It's just using the social influencer network to sell pizza, and it's just pizza in a box that has Steve Aoki's face, really. But it's selling really well on delivery because people are into it.
So kind of like going off of that, so we run a social-focused marketing strategy and creative studio. And we work with a lot of food companies, both hospitality and CPG. So I just have like a general question for you guys, because food, like you've all said, is something that like everyone's passionate about. Everyone eats, like everyone has an opinion. So kind of like what role has that played in terms of social in your success and challenges and benefits? Like, is social a huge part of your brand now because of that?
I can say for one, it's been hugely beneficial for us because it gives you this direct relationship with the customer that didn't exist even 10 years ago. And especially for a company like ours where we're a frozen product, we're always going to be in retail because frozen shipping is just way too expensive for most people in the country to afford. And so our immediate customer is either a distributor or a grocery store. And we don't have necessarily that direct relationship with our customer, but for social media. So we listen to them for product development ideas. We listen to them for early feedback. And as with most brands, they're our best ambassadors. Like the number of people that just are posting our pizza boxes just because they wanted to, it's kind of amazing. So.
Just to piggyback on that, so I was talking about the foodie last year. We launched it, and there are multiple Facebook pages and Instagram groups, and there's a group of like 20,000 people organically grown, which we have nothing to do with it. So, but just using that as a platform, we learned a lot about what is working, what's resonating, what's not resonating, and kind of going there too. Just to answer your question back, I think in this day and age, you cannot live without that. Is that the only platform? My answer would be no. But that's definitely a part of the puzzle in terms of how you're going about
Question here and then go.
So I'm a mechanical engineer by trade, so I know when you're designing, let's say, a piece of equipment like your company does, you can protect it with IP. But how does that apply to when you're trying to innovate in food, right? When you're trying to make new recipes, do you guys ever think about how to create barriers for entry for other customers, or on the contrary, to protect your recipe, other than, let's say, what Coca-Cola did, just put it in a box and say it's a secret, right? So just curious.
I mean, I think one of the most valuable pieces of information that any food company has is its formula. And, you know, fortunately, a lot of those are considered trade secrets and it's protected under the Trade Secrets Act. But it is, I mean, you guard it with your life. There are maybe like 2 people in the company that know it. And it's just one of those things that you have to be really, really cagey and secretive about. But you can't really patent a food formula, or if you do, what winds up happening is then your formula becomes publicly available. And then all somebody has to do is like sprinkle a little bit of Parmesan cheese and all of a sudden it's different. Right. So it's really something that, you know, if there are any CPG food entrepreneurs in the audience, that from day one, you just have to guard that thing with your life, or else you will surely regret it.
There's so many copycats in this industry, it's ridiculous.
That's
Yeah, to your, I mean, it's all about the brand, really. I mean, obviously, you want to protect your formula with your life, but the most important thing is have an innovative idea, be the first, maybe second to market, and brand out of it.
There's a question here for a while.
Yeah, I think Brian and Alex both mentioned that there's kind of these companies that tend to focus on experience and making it more visual, or either sell shoes or trying to do a very experiential restaurant. Isn't there like kind of losing focus, or isn't there a risk to lose focus, or where would be the organic path in which they should continue going and not just losing it and end up being in not a restaurant but just anything?
Food always has to be delicious. Like, whether it's convenient or experiential or whatever, like if you lose focus on like what you're actually delivering or providing at the end of the day, I feel like it's not going to be sustainable. So no matter what you're doing in the food industry, whether it's cauliflower or vegan, street food, it's got to be good, like fundamentally.
It's amazing how many people forget that though.
Yeah.
It just sounds so simple, but it's true. The number of these booths you go to food shows, you're like, oh my gosh, food.
Just because, I mean, have you seen like pictures of like an ice cream cone with like 50 things on top of it, where it's like not even edible? That's like, to me, that's a fact. Something that's Instagrammable, like just to be Instagrammable, like if it's not delicious, it's not going to work long term.
There's so many different types of customers too. There's one that would want something super experiential that's a day and a half long, that involves meditation and you know, whatever. It's not that. But and then there's some that maybe would want like, you know, just a dinner, and that can be even at campus, but it's the time and what they want out of it that dictates that. And there's so many types of desires for how you want to do food.
Thank you so much for coming here today. I really enjoyed hearing your insights about food and technology. I have a question around the cognitive dissonance I have around 30 to 40% of the food supply is wasted, and then 2, there are millions of Americans that are food insecure. And I know VCs have been throwing a lot of money into food waste startups and so forth, but what do you guys feel needs to happen in order for those 2 problems to solve each other?
Well, I'd say a lot of that food waste is at the retailer level, the grocery store, which none of us really are in that space. I mean, when you have a CPG, like you're able to like nail your production and their ingredients, you know, pretty quickly. A little bit less what I do, but it's probably the same with Canter's level.
We're almost victims of our own regulation here, right? So like a lot of the food waste I even see at the plant level is because, you know, if something's out in the air for a certain, like the FDA requires you to throw things away if they have touched this or that or the other thing. And it's not to say that those laws weren't created for a reason, but even at the grocery store level, right, the Best Buy dates that you have, a lot of companies do that to be risk averse, right? Like I'm going to say that my Best Buy date is 2 months before what it actually is, and it's not anything nefarious. It's, well, let's play it safe because we wouldn't ever want anybody to have any issues. So I think that it would take a marriage of kind of adjusting those really, or kind of harmonizing them in relation to the food-based issues that we have.
Yeah, where we live, we get to, there's a little bit of advantage there. I think that's maybe where the progressiveness of having that that union of like, hey, look, there's food that's going to waste, and there's people that need it. Because in urban areas, there's people that need it. And in downtown especially, we live right on Skid Row, and you know, I used to be in the kitchen back in the mornings prepping, and they would get cases on cases of food, and like they needed it all, of course, so they just have lines out the door, but they had to throw some of it out, and it was like the saddest thing. So it's just cabbage, and cabbage stays good forever, but like, you know, this was a date that was on the box, and we couldn't use it, and like that's where it really should start flexing, where there's actual need, and people are like hungry and eating Fritos because they just gotta get some.
But just to kind of like, you would be surprised. So we did a large-scale survey, and 20% of the stuff which is in your fridge is generally thrown out. It's the average, which we do not realize. When you go to a grocery store, you buy stuff within the specified dates. You bring it home, and for some reason, that's kind of the average which goes on now. That's a pretty interesting area, which I know a lot of VCs are throwing money at to kind of solve it and go in, whether that goes into a recycling or how do we kind of take that next channel of what you can do at home. This is a problem which is on a massive scale. So at each stage of the food chain, there could be different answers, and it's, if someone's looking to kind of work in that area, it's pretty primed up to kind of come up with some new innovation for sure.
And I think also just thinking to the grocery store example, I mean, a lot of these grocery stores don't necessarily have like the most robust supply chain software. So they're just ordering because, oh, the frozen manager decided to order this, or the fresh produce guy decided that he needs more bananas, right? It's not this sophisticated, okay, let's forecast customer demand and let's buy the right amount. So ultimately, economically, they're incentivized to reduce waste, but if there's not a simple way to do it, it's really hard to change.
I was going to add, everyone's like so anti-preservatives right now. Everyone's natural.
Pastrami is so good, right?
Well, like preservatives actually do help a lot with shelf life, and it's like, preservative has such a negative connotation to it, but like apple cider vinegar is a preservative. Like there's a lot of natural preservatives, and I think people are underestimating the value of that. Maybe you could be using more and still keep it natural. You know, like I hate when I see like an advertisement for no preservatives. I'm like, this is stupid. Like, there should be preservatives in food to keep it on the shelf.
I think we may have to cut out this part of the tape because I might be wrong, but there's a company, I think here in LA, called Appeal, which is basically trying to take a technology lens and preserving like bananas specifically for longer, so sort of like healthier preservatives.
Exactly.
And I do think that there's sort of a couple things for folks who are looking to start businesses, there are a couple ways to think about it. One is around kind of like technologies that can actually, and not talking software, but like actual technologies that can lengthen the life of food, I think is one area that's pretty interesting. I think the other one is around like business models, right? So Imperfect Produce, if you guys know that, and is a CSA, really focused around all the produce that's being taken away because people think that they don't look pretty. And I think there's opportunities for kind of business model innovations that can solve that. And then I think the third part of it, quite honestly, is like there are places in this country where there just are food deserts, where people can't drive to a grocery store. And I think there is opportunity for entrepreneurs to solve those problems, but I think there also may be things where it's not going to be solved by fair market dynamics. And so I think it's sort of a problem that needs to be solved through multiple lenses, is sort of how I would think about it. And I think there are signs that people are attacking different parts of that problem, and I would sort of encourage folks here to think about the different ways that we can address the areas that aren't being addressed right now.
Thank you.
There's a question over there for a while, if you still have it.
Last question. They got a good one.
I'll try to make it a good
Sam, we'll help you find people at the cocktail hour. All right.
Stephen Hudson, I'm just got a question for all of you. We've really enjoyed hearing sort of how you guys are exploring and hitting hard in the cutting edge, the leading edge for your individual markets. But on the other side, sort of what things are holding you back, what things are sort of exposed on the risk side, and what are you doing about that to sort of protect yourselves, or what are you not doing that may have to be in your next phase? Because we heard, next steps and growth range from all of you, which is fantastic, but I didn't hear anything about protecting sort of what might be holding you back. So.
What keeps you up at night?
Yeah, exactly. What keeps you up at night? Yeah.
I feel like it's always something new. One of the products that I have is a subscription service, and where we touch our customers every week with the new vegan meal, the very first thing that we started. And I think it's just like Alex mentioned earlier, it's just hard to stay, even though we rotate through different vegan recipes from around the world. It's like, okay, well, that was an awesome 10 weeks. There's nothing I don't like about you, but I'm not going to block out my Thursday lunches for that anymore. I'll try something else if it comes along.
Nutrition.
Yeah, and just kind of having the lifetime customer value that works, like the economics work, and that's just hard to do when you're also trying to do your own logistics too. So it's scheduling routes, and there's a lot more things, and the customer service aspect of it. Anyways, I would say that's my biggest obstacle, because I like that space, and it's just staying relevant to them.
Complex people problems keep me up at night.
Tell us more.
People have interesting,
Like internally.
just in general.
I think from an appliance point of view, there's 2 points. One is the whole economic cycle and how it goes, and tariffs play a big role in it, in how your products are priced and what happens over there is one thing, which definitely we closely monitor and how those are going around. The other thing is nobody wants.
Did you say terrorists?
No, terrorists. Sorry. Not terrorists. Sorry. You should cut that. The other one is nobody wants a product which was invented 3 years ago. Who wants an iPhone 6 these days? So it's the same way in anything. So we just like companies, we talk to every major retailer, and the day after Christmas, their first question is not like, oh, we did great or not. What's next for next year? So the pipeline needs to be always there for year over year is what we
Yeah, I would agree. I think one of the major themes of this has just been the fickleness of consumer behavior and consumer taste, and I really think at least for us, the key is just continuing to listen to our customers and continuing to innovate, and on the other hand, just very practically keeping up with demand of a growing product. It takes a lot of work to get your network and your supply chain sort of all up to speed there, so that's where I focus a huge majority of my time.
So I think that is time. So thank you guys so much for coming. We will be around for for mingling after this. So if you do have dying questions or questions you're dying to ask, please do come and ask us.